What's up, everybody? Michael Chiesa here, and it's finally happening. I've talked about it for years. I'm finally going to start putting out some YouTube content, and I'm excited because this is something I've wanted to do for a very long time, because one of my favorite things to do is talk fights, and it's not every weekend that I get to sit at the desk and do pre and post fight analysis for the UFC. So while I may not be in studio at the desk with the UFC, I'm here at the desk in my office, and I'm going to put out a prediction show for you guys for UFC 322, and there's no better card to start with than UFC 322. Every time the UFC goes to New York, we always put together incredible cards. And to me, this is the best pay-per-view of the year. In the main event, we have the number 2 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Islam Makhachev, who vacated his lightweight title to come up and challenge Jack Della Maddalena for the welterweight strap. And in the co-main event, we have the number 1 pound-for-pound female fighter in the world, Valentina Shevchenko, taking on Weili, the number 2 pound-for-pound female fighter in the world, who just vacated her title to come up and challenge Valentina. So we got 2 super fights in every sense of the word at the top of the bill, and we got some stacked fights below it. So let's get into my predictions for the main card for UFC 322. Our main card opener is going to be Benoit Saint-Denis taking on Beneil Dariush. Benoit Saint-Denis is the number 13th ranked lightweight in the world. Beneil Dariush ranked number 19. Benoit's UFC record is 7-3. All of his wins have came via finish. For Beneil, he is 17-6-1 in the UFC, 13 wins by finish, 8 subs, 5 KOs. And for Benoit and his finishes, he's got 11 subs and 4 KOs. So Benoit is a live by the sword and die by the sword type of fighter. And that doesn't reflect that he competes at a high level. That's just his style. He's a very, very physical fighter, likes to just come at you on a straight line, throw really, really big shots, get you on your heels, and create these grappling exchanges where he can use his physical attributes. He's very, very strong. And for Beneil, he's much more of a technician. Beneil's not going to be the stronger fighter, but Beneil's much more technical. Beneil's competed at a very high level in grappling. He's trained under Rafael Cordero for years, and he's always worked on his wrestling. So he's always worked on all facets of the sport under some very high-level coaches. You know, and for Benoit, when you talk about the run that he was on before he ran into Dustin Poirier, he was on a 5-fight win streak, and essentially it seemed like the UFC was ready to strap the rocket ship to his back and really see what he's made of, because if he could have got past Dustin Poirier, could have found himself knocking on the door of a title shot. Obviously, Dustin Poirier turned him around. It was too much too soon for Benoit Saint-Denis, and as time went on, we found out the one thing that Benoit Saint-Denis lacked was a head coach. And when you're going to compete at a very high level in any sport, you need a head coach, especially as a fighter. If a fighter is their own head coach, they're going to push themselves way too much. You need a head coach to know when to push you and know when to pull you back. And even after the Dustin Poirier fight, he turned around, fought Renato Moicano, came up short again. I think it was after the Moicano fight that he found a head coach, and now we've seen good results again. He beat Kyle Prepolek, and then he turned around and he defeated Mauricio Hufi in a very, very dominant fashion. Mauricio Hufi is such a very creative striker, and he just shut him down with his pressure, his wrestling, and his grappling, and got a finish in the second round. And for Beneil, I mean, this is a guy that was on an 8-fight win streak, capped off with a decision win over Mateusz Gamrot. And that win over Gamrot has really aged well. Gamrot's a very, very tough fighter to beat, and he's got shades of Benoit to his style. He's physical, he loves to grapple, he can fight at a very chaotic pace, and Beneil was able to handle that and get the win. You know, and when you talk, if you rewind and talk about the shortcomings that Beneil had, you know, he lost to Charles Oliveira, shut down the 8-fight win streak, had a bad weight cut, and then he turns around and he fights Arman Tsarukyan, and it was just too much too soon. He got knocked out in the first round. So he did the right thing, took time off, came back refreshed, beat a super tough Renato Moicano. And when I think about how these guys match up, I give Beneil the edge. I give Beneil the edge in this fight, and I believe he's going to win, because Beneil likes to fight from the open stance and use his strong side weapon. So the big left kick, the big right straight, the big right overhand, the big left low kicks, all against orthodox fighters. But I know it's going to translate well to him fighting another southpaw, because it's going to open up the opportunity for him to land lots of low kicks on the lead leg of Benoit Saint-Denis. Not always going to have to throw that long inside low kick. He can attack the outside, he can attack the calf, and he doesn't have to worry about the threat of Benoit's takedowns, because he's got good takedown defense himself. And even if he does get taken down, he's got a very offensive guard, he's very dangerous off his back, and he's got great scramble abilities. And I think that Beneil, being the veteran, he's not going to have the edge in age. Benoit's a lot younger. He's not going to have the edge from the physical standpoint, because Benoit's going to be a lot stronger. But I think that Beneil's ability to go the distance, and with all the experience that he has, I think he's going to to edge out a very, very close decision win. I got to give it to my former foe, Beneil Dariush. I think he's going to win a very, very close decision. Let's move on to welterweight. We got the number 9 ranked Carlos Prates taking on the number 4 ranked Leon Edwards. I love this fight. I mean, obviously because it's my weight class. We got 3 big welterweight fights on the card. This is the first one on the main card. So Carlos Prates takes on Leon Edwards. Carlos Prates comes in with a 5-1 UFC record, 20 wins via stoppage throughout the course of his career, 17 KO, 3 subs. That's a crazy stat. Leon Edwards, 14-4 UFC record, 10 wins via stoppage over the course of his career, 7 KOs, 3 submissions. Let's talk about Carlos Prates. He comes into the UFC and up until the Ian Gary fight, he was on an 11-fight win streak altogether. And he just has this smooth, long Muay Thai style. He'll just kind of lull you in, and he's just got such whip on his punches. And he's so cool, calm, and collected in these moments where when there's big exchanges, when there's big punches being thrown at him. He has really, really good vision. For him, I think he's going to have the ability to walk Leon Edwards down. When you go back and look at Leon's last 2 fights, 2 of the best fighters in the world. We're talking Sean Brady. He loses that fight in the 4th round, and then Belal Muhammad, who was once the welterweight champion. He took the title from Leon Edwards. I just think that we've kind of found a kryptonite to Leon's style is you just got to pressure him back and not get to the clinch, because we saw in the Kamaru Usman fight, the 3rd fight, Kamaru walked him back to the fence, and if you walk Leon back on a straight line and he anticipates grappling, he has good counter grappling. He's got good counter wrestling. But we saw in the Belal Muhammad fight, the way that Belal was able to start cutting him off with his stance changes and funnel him back to the fence, use his striking to get to the wrestling, not as straightforward as Leon would try to skirt. Leon doesn't really change stances too much. He really stays southpaw, so it kind of limits his movement and limits his exits if he's having to deal with pressure. And I think that Belal kind of showed there's a little bit of weakness to the footwork game of Leon Edwards. If you change stances, you can funnel him in and box him up, and that's how you get to your takedown. And for Sean Brady, it's almost kind of the opposite, because Sean Brady's got physical gifts and things that we will get to later. But nonetheless, 2 really tough guys, and it's hard for me to imagine this is a good bounce back fight for Leon, because for Carlos Prates, I mean, he was on the verge of defeating Ian Machado Gary, almost had him knocked out and stopped in the 5th round. He rebounds with that huge viral KO of Jeff Neal, and Jeff Neal, one of the biggest power punches in all the UFC, pound for pound. I mean, Jeff Neal hits like an absolute truck. Carlos Prates is very calm dealing with power strikers, very calm dealing with guys that can knock him out, and he's very comfortable sliding out of the way, sliding out of range, landing those straight punches, a lot of those whipping hooks, whipping overhands like we saw against Li Jingliang. And I just think that he's going to find opportunities to use his pull counters against Leon Edwards. Leon could have a chance throwing the double strikes, much like we saw in his 2nd fight against Kamaru Usman. Throw the double strike, throw the left straight, and throw the left kick behind it. But I just think that Carlos Prates is going to be too smooth with it. I think he's going to see those things coming, like I said, because Carlos Prates has very, very good vision. I don't know if it's the cigarettes. I don't know what it is. Carlos Prates is a cool customer inside the octagon, and all the pressure is on Leon Edwards. Dean Thomas says that pressure can make diamonds, but pressure can also burst pipe. All the pressure is on Leon Edwards. So I don't think that this is a situation where the pressure is going to benefit him. I think it's going to work against him. And I think that Carlos Prates getting his feet back underneath him with the Jeff Neal win, I think it's a perfect recipe for Carlos Prates to play spoiler and take out the number 4 ranked Leon Edwards. I got Carlos Prates winning this fight. Next up. I love this fight. I love this fight for 2 reasons. For 1, it's my weight class. And for 2, I'm a big Sean Brady fan. I'm a fan of all of my former opponents. Whether you beat me or I beat you, it doesn't matter. You got a fan for life. That's maybe why I have a little bit of a bias for Beneil Dariush. I'll be very honest about that. A little bit of a bias with my former foes. I try to block that out. But let's get into this Michael Morales, Sean Brady fight. You got the number 8 ranked Michael Morales, 6-0 in the UFC, 18-0 overall, undefeated, very, very young. And you got Sean Brady, ranked number 2 in the world, 8-1 UFC record, 18-1 overall, 1 blemish, and that's to the former welterweight champ Belal Muhammad. He keeps coming up in the conversation for all these fights. We'll probably hear more about him later on down the road. This is a fight for Sean Brady where I kind of know the people from Philly a little bit. And look, Sean will take on all comers. He's not scared of any man. Sean Brady is out to be a champion, and he doesn't care who he has to beat. He does feel like after the Leon Edwards fight that he has earned the right to fight up. But I've been there before, and sometimes you earn your spot, and you kind of have to defend it by fighting down. And there's really not a lot of options for Sean Brady. I know some other inside stuff that I can't quite, divulge with you guys because I don't want to get myself in some hot water. But there were people that turned down the Sean Brady fight. And I'm not going to name names, but I will just say there are people that turned down Sean Brady. And that's been the story of his career. Not a lot of people want to fight this guy. But let's get into the analysis. Michael Morales is a guy where he gets in the UFC, very, very big for welterweight, very just huge for the weight class, very, very young, and he's just got this wild style. He's a national champ in his home country of Ecuador for freestyle wrestling, so he's got the wrestling chops, got the length, he's got the size, he's got the power. I mean, he's got that kill shot, you know, one punch KO power, big kicks, very powerful striker, but respectfully, not very refined. Just his first few UFC fights, like you're talking about the Max Griffin fight, the Jake Matthews fight, you know, he lost a round in the Jake Matthews fight. He lost a round in the Max Griffin fight. And I don't feel like he lost those rounds because he was just getting beat. I feel like he was just getting ahead of himself. He's just got all these physical gifts. He's a diamond in the rough. You know, you just got to find a way to brush the dirt off and polish this diamond. And he has figured it out. From the Neil Magny fight to the Gilbert Burns fight. The Gilbert Burns fight specifically, he had his feet planted, his feet were set. He wasn't just punching coming forward, looked so much more polished and refined. And what makes him so dangerous after that Gilbert Burns fight is what he showed against Burns is the ability to have shot selection. He's not just throwing big punches. He was picking his shots against Gilbert Burns. He was finding his openings. He was creating lanes and picking his shots, planting his feet, staying in balance. For how much power he possesses, when he sets his feet and picks his shots, he can knock out anybody on the planet. I think he can knock out people way above his weight class, given his size and his physical gifts. But on the other side, you got Sean Brady. Sean Brady got the best of me. I've never been against a stronger competitor in my life. When Sean Brady gets his hands locked, it is damn near impossible to break them. But the one thing I noticed when I was going up against Sean Brady, when I was breaking down the film, he was trying to be too technical of a striker. There was way too much lateral movement, a little bit too much kick and run, almost like he was just trying to fight a technical fight, trying to fight a clean fight. And it didn't work against Belal Muhammad because as he was trying to use that lateral footwork, Belal did what I talked about earlier. Used his stance changes in his footwork to corral Brady and force him to go backwards. And that's what funneled him to the fence and created that finishing sequence where Belal was able to get into the fence and just pour on the offense. Sean Brady's not used to having his back to the fence. He's used to being the guy in the driver's seat, either backing you up or using his footwork and lateral movement to evade you. This was the first time he's really gotten forced on his heel, and it didn't bid well for him. He got finished. It was his first loss in his career. But he learned. Sean Brady learned. Look at the guy. He's big. He's physical. Well, he might not be big in stature and height. He's absolutely jacked. And I was telling his coaches for the longest time, Coach Marquez, I'm like, when this guy, if he just quits moving so much side to side, locks his traps, and just comes at you on a straight line, you can't stop him. And that's exactly what he did against Leon Edwards. He locked his traps and just bullied Leon Edwards back to the fence. And that's the key to Sean Brady's game, is simplifying it. And I think for Michael Morales, I think he's got to do the same thing. He can't be too worried about the power of Morales in a way. He can't let that want him to try move side to side too much. He needs to still stick with the same game plan he had against Leon Edwards. Lock the trap and get underneath Michael Morales' punches. You're going to be at a significant height disadvantage, but that can also work to your advantage. I'm a longer fighter myself, and it gets to a point when a fighter is short enough to get underneath your punches, it becomes a problem when you're trying to punch down. So for Sean Brady, if he can mix in the level changes and get underneath the punches of Michael Morales, I don't think Michael Morales' wrestling chops, while he has the accolades, I don't think his wrestling chops are as good as Sean Brady. Sean Brady is in a very tough training room. A lot of guys from the Eastern Bloc and everybody that's been in the training room and in the octagon with Sean Brady says he is the real deal. I think Sean Brady's going to beat Michael Morales. I think it's going to be a tough fight, and he knows he's in for a tough fight, but I think Sean Brady gets the dub. All right, here we go. Super fight time. Let's talk about this co-main event. This fight's incredible. This is long overdue. We have been clamoring for this. Zhang Weili going up to flyweight and taking on Valentina Shevchenko. Let's get into some of the numbers real quick. For Zhang Weili, 10-2 UFC record, 26-3 overall, 19 wins via stoppage, 11 KOs, 8 subs. Incredible. Valentina Shevchenko, 14-3-1 in the UFC, 25-4-1 in her overall record, 15 wins via stoppage, 8 KOs, 7 subs. Very balanced. When I do the analysis on both of these females, I can just talk about them together because they're not necessarily mirror images of each other. Everything I say complimentary for Valentina Shevchenko, I'm going to say the same thing for Zhang Weili. They're both so well-rounded, and they both have this ability. I don't know if it's something that they are consciously doing through the course of their training camp. They will go out and beat their opponents at their strengths. Like, look at Zhang Weili when she took on Carla Esparza. She beat her at her strengths. She used her wrestling, used her grappling, and beat Carla Esparza where she is at her strongest. Valentina Shevchenko, I mean, had a lot of success at 135 pounds, beat my teammate Juliana Pena in Juliana's wheelhouse. Beat her by a triangle. I mean, that's Juliana's specialty, is the ground. She beat Juliana in her wheelhouse. She beat Holly Holm in her wheelhouse in the striking, but that's also let's be honest, Valentina Shevchenko is one of the greatest strikers in the UFC. Male or female, doesn't matter. She's incredible. But if you talk about where they're at right now, let's talk Valentina first. Valentina Shevchenko's on a 2-fight win streak. She had her 9-fight win streak come to a halt when Alexa Grasso pulled off the unthinkable. I believe it was UFC 285. Valentina Shevchenko threw that ill-fated spinning wheel kick, got her back taken, and got submitted. Something we never saw coming. Not from Alexa Grasso, respectfully, but while it didn't show like holes in Valentina's game, the one thing that she did do in that fight, and she does have the tendency to do, is sometimes she goes to the well a little too much with those big strikes, with those big movements. Now, I'm not saying that she gets away with it, because that would make it sound like it's not skillful, but like she's just that good. She can throw a lot of spinning wheel kicks. She can do that because it's within her repertoire. She's very well trained. She's been doing it her whole life. It's not something that zaps her life bar, but it is something that her opponents do pick up on, and that's exactly what Alexa Grasso did. They trained for it. They trained it in the back. They trained it in the camp. She worked it right before she walked out for that fight, and it panned out for her. She was able to take the back off the spinning wheel kick, and get the submission. Since then, she has righted the ship. It took Valentina 2 tries against Alexa Grasso thereafter for her to reclaim her title, and then she took on Manon Fiorot in a very, very closely contested fight. Manon gave her all she can handle, but Manon's a very, very tough puzzle to solve. Essentially, Valentina Shevchenko is almost fighting a mirror image of herself, because Weili, while she doesn't throw as many spinning heel kicks and things like Valentina, the one thing that Weili does as a striker, she doesn't go to the well too much with the same big movements. She's got very, very good fundamentals. The lead kick is always on point, and she's just really good with her movement. Valentina is much more of a stationary striker, and Weili's got good lateral movement. And Weili has that ability, like I said, to beat her opponents at their strengths, much like Valentina does. Now, the big X factor in this fight is very, very obvious, it's the weight. I've never seen Valentina or Weili in the same room, because I really feel like this fight is going to boil down to size. If they're pretty comparative in size as we are right now, or just as they were when they were in their respective weight class, if they weren't too far apart in size, I don't think size is going to be an issue. But if Weili's having to put on weight and it's going to take away from her speed, then the weight is going to be a factor in this fight. It's a coin flip fight for me. I really don't know how to pick this one. I have to go with Valentina Shevchenko. I just think that she's been here before, going up and down in weight classes. This is Weili's first foray going up to 125 pounds, at least in the UFC. It's a hard fight for me. I just think she's going to find a way to impose her size. I think that she's going to be more physical in the clinch. I think that her top pressure is going to be a lot for Weili to handle. And Weili did struggle dealing with the wrestling and the grappling of Rose Namajunas. And obviously she learned from that fight, and she made those improvements. And we saw that in the Carla Esparza fight, bringing in guys like Josh Hinger. She's spending time training with guys like John Wood, bringing in the right coaches to kind of fill the gaps in her game. And she's done that since then, but I just don't know if she's going to be strong enough and to be able to match the strength of Valentina if she gets her hands locked, because I do anticipate this will be part of Valentina's game plan, is to close the space, use the grappling, mix it in with her striking, and just show a wide array, a complete display of mixed martial arts. So I got to go with Valentina Shevchenko on this one. Sorry, I'm a little back and forth, guys. That one's a little mixed up, but that's just a really, really hard fight for me to call. Like I said, they're mirror images of each other, in my opinion. It's just all going to boil down to size and strength. And I think that the size and strength is going to favor Valentina, and that's what's going to carry her to victory lane. All right, here we go. Man, what a fight. This fight's going to be incredible. Islam Makhachev, the challenger. Crazy to say that right now, especially with the run he had at lightweight. It's crazy to call him a challenger again. The number 2 pound-for-pound ranked fighter, the former lightweight powerhouse, Islam Makhachev, taking on the champ, the welterweight champ, Jack Della Maddalena, number 8 pound-for-pound. 8-0 in the UFC is Jack Della Maddalena with an 18-2 record overall, 14 wins by stoppage, 12 KO, 2 submissions. Islam Makhachev, 16-1 in the UFC, overall record 27-1, 18 wins via stoppage, 13 subs, 5 KOs, and he's on a 15-fight win streak. That's incredible. And all those wins are in the UFC. Jack Della Maddalena, respectfully, on an 8-fight win streak in the UFC with 5 stoppages. This fight's awesome. This fight is, let's just start at the top with Islam Makhachev. If you've ever seen Islam Makhachev, the guy is the size of a welterweight. He's always found a way to make 155 pounds, and it was long overdue for him to go up. I mean, and it worked out perfectly with everything going on with Topuria and him struggling to make 145 pounds. And for Islam, I don't think it was getting much easier for him. And who doesn't love a good super fight? Who doesn't love when people go up a weight class and challenge the next respected champion, much like Weili's doing against Valentina Shevchenko? I'm here for it. I love it. I love the super fights. It's great. It's must-see TV. And for Islam, this guy is just incredibly strong. It really shows a good, well-rounded game. very, very well improved in the striking. We saw that against Dustin Poirier. Did take some damage in that fight, but who doesn't take damage against Dustin Poirier? Let's be honest. And for Jack Della Maddalena, I think it's just, there's more meat on the bone as to what makes this fight interesting when you talk about Jack Della Maddalena, because you just know what you're getting with Islam. You know what you're getting from the Habibs, the Islams, the Umars. They got insane work ethics, train nonstop. Their training room is incredibly tough. There's no holes in their game. You literally have to land a lucky shot to beat a guy like Islam, much like Adriano Martins did years ago. Takes a lucky shot, and that just doesn't happen often. But for Jack Della Maddalena, he's got this guy. He's got this guy in his camp named Craig Jones. If you don't know who Craig Jones is, look him up on social media. He's probably one of the most prolific athletes in the sport of jiu-jitsu, and where he has really came into the equation on the MMA scene is him being a big part of Alexander Volkanovski's camp. And you look at the success Volkanovski had in the first fight against Islam, there's something there. There's something that Craig Jones brings to that training room that helps train these fighters to go against these Dagestani powerful grapplers. I wouldn't say he's got an answer, because nobody has beat Islam aside from Adriano Martins, and Merab Dvalishvili, he's in a league of his own, but we're just focused on Islam. Craig Jones hasn't been the answer to the Dagestani wrestling, but he's been the problem. He trained Volkanovski enough to give him problems, and now he's in Jack Della Maddalena's camp. And I think that there's something there where that's going to apply to this fight, because Volkanovski's going up a weight class against a guy who is one of the biggest lightweights. I think that size did come into play in that fight. Do I think if they were the same size, Volkanovski would win? Absolutely not. I do think it would have been more competitive. But for Jack Della Maddalena, having him in this camp is very, very important. And when you talk about the part of Jack Della's striking game that I think is the biggest threat for Islam is the knee. The way he gets his knees up, you can see the way he points his toes to the mat, doesn't get his knee extended away from his body, he throws it close to him, which is going to be very important, because if he can't meet Islam with the knee, it's not out of the realm of a possibility that Islam could literally shoot into his knee. The way he brings his knee up, it's not necessarily to time hitting him on the chin. The way that Jack Della gets that knee up, he could slice Islam. Islam could almost just shoot into his knee. That's a real thing. That knee's a big threat. But on the flip side, the problem with Jack Della's striking game that's going to play into the favor of Islam is how high he holds his hand. Jack Della loves that high guard, keeps his hands close to his face. The punches come from here. Okay. But when your hands are so close to your face, it's so easy to shoot underneath your arms. If you have a frame, if you have your hands out, you can do what we call down blocking in wrestling, where you can almost stop the shot or get your hands on your opponent as they're shooting into you. And it's going to take a lot more time for Jack Della's hands to come away from his face, to come away from that high guard, to create a down block situation to try to stop a shot from Islam. Islam loves that pick single leg, and he's a southpaw going against an orthodox fighter. Jack Della does switch stances, but either way, Islam's got a really good snatch single. Look to see him just not even shoot to his knee. He'll throw punches. Pull Jack's hands a little higher than they already are, and that lane's going to be right there to hit that snatch single. I wish I had a partner here so I could show a demo, because I'm essentially wrestling in my seat right now. I think that the knees are a big threat for Islam coming from Jack Della Maddalena, but Jack's stance, I think, is going to create big open lanes for Islam to get to that snatch single. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in this fight. That's what leads me to believe that Islam is going to dethrone Jack Della Maddalena. I think Jack Della's size is going to aid him in some of the counter grappling exchanges. I don't see him stuffing the shots of Islam. I do seeing him have situations where he's going to scramble and get back to his feet. Gilbert Burns had a lot of success taking down Jack Della, but Jack Della did a good job with his scrambling ability, maintaining motion when the fight hits the mat. I just don't know if Jack Della is going to be able to maintain that type of motion with Islam, because once Islam takes you down, he's so powerful on top. He's got so much top pressure. I think Della can maybe win a round or two, but I think that the wrestling of Islam is going to lead to him getting his hand raised and claiming the welterweight title. So that's it, everybody. It's late. I might have muffed my words. I might have went all over the place. Might not be the best prediction show. It was my first one, but if you tuned in, thank you. I'm looking forward to refining this product. It's going to get better as time goes on. My analysis will get better. I'll put a little more time into this, but nonetheless, I'm glad we got going. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy the fight this weekend. UFC 322, Madison Square Garden in New York City. Let's go.